Come on! Welcome to this week's Owl Diary. Hello there, welcome back to the channel. I'm here in the museum gardens on an evening. I'm just flying Gulliver here, and if you had watched one of our recent Owl Diaries, you'll already know that he did have a little 3-day adventure where got a bit lost, but it's okay because since then he's been flying really well, nice and quick, lots of passes to the as you can see here, as he swoops down through the trees, around the corners, and little bits and pieces like that where it's really very fast and exciting. And yes, he's back to form. The reason, simply why we lost him that time, is because the little transmitter he wears had run out of power. The battery had run out of power, and it's because I'd recharged the battery just too many times. He's now wearing a new battery that's fully charged. There we go. And he's got a nice de-yoked cockle chick to finish him off there. He's looking absolutely fantastic after his molt, and he is flying really well. And the way they fly is very different to most other birds of prey because they are catching birds in the wild. They're a bird catching bird. That's why we swing that lure around. And therefore they are really very fantastic when it comes to flying at speed. Top speed of the falcon, a tri-bird like this one, quite possibly 180 miles per hour, something like that. He is half a peregrine, and the pure peregrines have been recorded flying well over speeds of 220 miles per hour in that downward flight. And that brings me on nicely to this week's falconry term of the week.
The falconry term of the week.
This week's falconry term is the word stoop. This is when a falcon flies at a great height, sometimes thousands of feet high, and then flies downwards in a very vertical flight, gaining great speed. This is where they hit their top speed, and that's called a stoop. The falcon stoop. It's a very impressive sight to see, and I have witnessed it a number of times. Gulliver here, when he flies, never really flies high enough for a proper stoop, but he does lots of little mini ones from 300 or 400 feet high, and they're still really exciting to watch. Well done, Gulliver. Gearing up for events coming up like the York Balloon Fiesta flying shows, and we have other flying shows as well coming up in the next sort of 4 or 5 weeks, and he's going to be quite possibly the star of the show. Right, hope you enjoy the rest of this week's Owl Diary. Well, it's another day and another event, and I'm here at a wedding all the way down in Canterbury, little hotel stopover. And I went for a lovely long walk this morning around the city of Canterbury, which was nice and quiet, and saw some of the sights, like the cathedral there and some of the old streets and things. Reminded me of York quite a bit, which we do a lot of work in and I've known for many years, but lovely little city, very charming. And the wedding today was a ring bearer, which went perfectly because Bailey Albanel, he's a little star there. And then of course we did some handling, and we even did a little flying show as well. But it was very funny because we do the bit with the hawk, and we have the hawk helmet, pick a volunteer, and we got a very brave, shall we say, young man, I think he was about 10 years old, and he thought, yeah, I'm quick, I'm fast. I said to him, do a little run around the garden, you don't have to go too far. He didn't listen to me, or he didn't hear me, or he didn't care, because he just kept running and running and running. And at one point, Jed, the Harris hawk we had today at the show, in the wedding flying show, he flew right across to him. He managed to get right up onto the roof of the building there, just narrowly missing his head, and then the runner kind of disappeared into the trees. And then of course he came back around again and eventually made his way back, and eventually Jed did in fact land on the head. So it's been a really fun day, absolutely stunning venue. Inside there you can see here how pretty it is with some really nice decor and such, and it was just a really lovely little event to do. We do like these, add some real magic and sparkle to a wedding. Lots more weddings come up later this week as well, but for now I'm going to pack them up and get myself back up to North Yorkshire. A little drive back with the birds and get them all back in their aviaries, fed and sorted. How'd you solve a problem like Olly? Yes, I'm here in the museum gardens on a lovely Sunday morning. You can hear the bells in the background, that's the Minster calling out. And I'm here with Olly, my European Eagle Owl. He's 9 years old, and I've had him since he was about 2 weeks old. In fact, here's a photo of him when he was actually a very fluffy owlet. Now, Yes, we have got a little bit of a problem with Olly. The problem we've got is he's a little bit too tame. It is possible to have an owl that's kind of too tame. Essentially, Olly here thinks he's human. When you hand rear an owl well, it will think it's a human, or think that everyone's in an owl in human outfits or something like that. And this is really good because the owls have got to be very calm and tame when they're being handled by people, when they're going to schools and all that kind of thing. Now, when it comes to Olly and his aviary, he does believe that is his territory. And in fact, the immediate area around his aviary is also his territory, because that's his home, essentially. So pretty much I'm the only person who can go into his aviary without being mildly attacked. If we send in one of the other volunteers, especially someone a bit smaller than me, which isn't difficult to find, then they will tend to be mildly attacked. And when I say mildly attacked, all he's doing is bouncing off them and saying, "Go away, you're not meant to be here." Now that's fine if it wasn't for the fact he has these lovely sharp talons here. And of course it could cause injury. Now, the good thing about that behaviour is it only pertains to where he lives in his aviary. When he's out and about in other places, he will be no problem at all. It's not his territory, he's flying, he's being handled, and there's no issue. Until just recently, I've noticed some moments when there's been lots of people around where he starts hooting in a certain way, starts looking at them in a certain way, as if he's in his own territory. And there's even been a couple of occasions where he has flown towards people and sort of bounced off them momentarily. Luckily, no major injuries, but of course there could be a major injury. Again, he's got these talons, and the last thing we want is for a member of the public to be scratched or worse by an owl's talons. It's an incredibly rare thing that an owl would behave that way when it's not in his own aviary. And of course, I'm a bit concerned. So the minute he's now not in the flying show, I'm going to fly our female eagle owl on the flying show. We've got our Canadian great horned owl, Eva, bringing her weight back down, ready to be flying in shows. So we've got plenty of big owls for the flying shows and flying displays. And we are going to do some handling with him, but we're going to just be very cautious and careful of his behaviour and the way he's behaving. At the minute, he's just making that other noise, which kind of means I'm still hungry, which is fair enough. I'm going to feed him a bit more food shortly. But he's not hooting, he's not looking around as if it's his territory. And I only know this because I've had him, as I know, had him since he was a very young bird. And I've worked with owls enough years now to be able to read what they're thinking a little bit, kind of understand their body language. So I've talked to some very experienced falconers about this problem. They've actually had similar issues with other birds before, but again, just in the aviaries. And I've taken some advice. We're going to work with him. We're going to be careful and cautious, and hopefully it won't be a major problem. And it's just a hormonal thing, essentially, which hopefully will pass soon. But yeah, just goes to show how unpredictable this line of work is. You accept you have a territorial bird in its enclosure, and there are certain ways that we work around that. Don't send a child into his aviary, for example. But out on displays, it's normally not a problem. He does school visits, he flies over the heads of children, and he's not ever been a problem before. So we're just going to kind of take on the work with Olly now with a little sense of caution. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this week's Owl Diary. Next week's edition is going to be a York Balloon special. It's a 4-day event, and there's lots of things going on there, and it's also one of our biggest flying shows that we do. Actually, a bit too big, the arena's enormous. So stay tuned to the channel for that one. As always, thanks for watching.